thing. But yeah, retrospectively looking back, I probably first came into addiction when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and that was involving Galaxy hot chocolate, and I would start with 1 sugar or 2 sugars, and before I knew it, my mum was telling me off because she would see me make these hot chocolates, and I was putting like 14 sugars in a hot chocolate, and so obviously my tolerance even then, like looking back, was increasing. 2 sugars wasn't enough, then 3 sugars wasn't enough, and then 4 sugars wasn't enough. So looking back, I've had issues with controlling hedonistic pleasures, I guess you should call, like sensory pleasures. Yeah. So looking back.
When did you come in contact with addiction again, do you think?
Looking back, following that, I would say, I've been around drugs. Like where I grew up on an estate, so drugs were kind of like normal. Like it was normal to smoke weed or whatever, but I didn't really do that growing up. I first drank alcohol like maybe when I started drinking maybe when I was like 11, but I never had an issue with it as such. But in terms of like having access to substances from a young age, yeah, for sure. Like I tried weed and cigarettes and alcohol all by the time I was 12. But for some reason, I didn't cling on to those substances. But yeah, I was going through some. I was going through some trauma around those young adolescent ages too. School, getting kicked out of school and stuff like that, and I was really struggling with identity and my idea of self, for sure, looking back. I definitely had depression. I was with CAMS, Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, and they were amazing. I think I came into contact with them when I was 14, and they told me I kind of had depression. But it was coming out as anger back then. So when I was younger, it came out as anger. But then now, these days, it's mainly sadness and despair. But yeah, young adolescents, yeah, weed, alcohol, but nothing of not regular at all. Not regular at all. But I was in contact with every drug you can imagine from a young age, seeing big chunks of cocaine on the kitchen getting chopped up, like, with dealers, because my friends' fathers were big, time dealers or whatever. So it was normal. People taking drugs, people selling drugs from a young age, 10, 11, 12, yeah, it was normal.
And how did you come in contact yourself? How did you first start to use drugs?
Okay, so it's a bit of a sad one because I went through all that time, like I wasn't affected by peer pressure and stuff, and the people that I was around were, sniffing coke, whatever, smoking weed, and but I never, it wasn't my thing. I actually went teetotal, like my adolescence wasn't filled with drugs. I then also had like a huge change of character. Without telling my life story, I got kicked out of school, but then got re-employed and worked at the same school that I got kicked out of, Jack Hunt School, to work with kids on the brink of exclusion. So that was really cool, and that gave me an opportunity because I went to college and I've done a level 3 in health and social care and got enough UCAS points to apply for university. So in my transition from college to uni, I worked. The school that kicked me out then employed me to work with kids on the brink of exclusion. I had my own office and everything. It was quite ironic because I was, in staff meetings in the morning, and I was stood next to people that told me I'd be nothing, that I'd amount to nothing, that I was worthless, and all these real labeling. There's labeling theory where if you get told you're something enough, you become it. And these are people that told me I'd be nothing. I was standing next to them in a suit and tie, and then working along. I was their colleague, so it was quite ironic, and it was funny, but it was an amazing opportunity to help people. But university is often where people maybe sometimes first come into contact with drugs or substances or whatever, but that wasn't for me. I'd done that when I was like 11 or 12. I was teetotal, so there's this thing called freshers in the UK, which is, you go out and you have this week solid, 2 weeks solid of partying, really. It's like an initiation, I don't know, all sorts. And you get really, really drunk and you party a lot and maybe take a lot of drugs. And actually I was teetotal at that time, so I didn't even drink. So I felt quite alienated, I was like 19, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do anything like that. So during freshers I felt kind of, an outcast. But then I got a job in an ice rink back. So I studied in Nottingham, and then I'd work at the weekends back in Peterborough, where my mum lived. I worked in an ice rink, and they had a cafe, and week after week I'd see all this food that wouldn't make it to be, that wouldn't be sold, that was left over, be binned, like huge amounts, like of like good quality food as well, like we're talking about like pasties and like sandwiches, or real warm food that's useful. And I growing up from where I grew up and knowing what I knew those people that definitely would appreciate a warm, toasty, especially in November, December, January, whenever it was. So I kind of had a word with the manager, and she was really, really sweet. And legally they're meant to bin it, but I'd take some and I'd put it in my bag. I'd bike into town, and I'd hand it out to all the homeless community, just independently, just on my own. And then, but over time, that I was doing this on a weekly basis, and it felt amazing, and but I then built rapport with these people. I built relationships and even friendships with these people, because from just handing the food out and them saying thank you to me actually sitting with them and having a talk and getting to know them on a personal level, and them getting to know me on a personal level. Anyway, when I hit about 20, 21, through complex reasons, multitude of reasons, I got diagnosed with bipolar. So from childhood trauma and things happened when I was younger, and something had triggered when I was about 20 or 21. I ended up becoming really mentally unwell. So I had a manic episode. But following the manic episode came the biggest depression I've ever felt in my whole life. And unfortunately, I was still trying to help people at this time. I wanted to die, to be honest. Like, I attempted suicide, but I was still, really trying to help people, because that was kind of, I'll be honest, that helping people was the only time that the pain kind of went away. But anyway, unfortunately, these relationships that I've made with some of the homeless community meant that I had direct access to heroin. It was as easy as that. And I'd seen what it had done to people. I'd seen the effect, the like anesthesia kind of effect where it would take away pain. Like I'd see the pain literally I'd see them just, I'd see it happen in front of my eyes. And I wanted that because it was just this ongoing, visceral pain inside that just wouldn't go, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. So I guess you could call it self-medicating, but also I had little value of my own life. So I then started taking heroin. So what went from turning from me helping people, then unfortunately led to me becoming a heroin addict. Or not, through being really, really sad and having access to it led me to becoming a heroin addict. And I guess I was quite naive as well, considering it's a completely different world. I want to make that clear. It's a completely different world. When you get to drugs like heroin and crack, it's the underworld. It really is a different world. It's the darkest place you can imagine. There's very little light. There isn't friendships. There isn't there's people that will use you. There's people that will And I was quite naive to this. I was very young. I was 20, 21, and I was using to just try and get rid of this pain, and it worked temporarily. It took away this pain of existing, this pain of being alive, and then I started smoking, but straight away I just wanted to inject. So there's these two people that I used with. They're now both dead, sadly, actually. But they would inject me. So I was looking back. It was very dark. It was a really, really dark moment of my life, being injected by these 40-year-old a man and a woman, being injected by them because I didn't know how to do it, but I wanted it, So I'd provide the drugs and they'd literally inject me. Unfortunately, this then led to an overdose one time. So I was in a crack house, and I remember I was on this horrible brown chair that I'd always sit in, and they'd sit on the brown sofa and be couching or whatever. But anyway, they came over, and they was both there. Well, the gentleman was here, and the woman was there. The woman put the needle inside me. And I'd injected previously, and it went in. And as soon as it went in, I knew something was wrong. And within 2 seconds maybe, my vision just went into 3, then 4. Next thing I know, I'm on the other side of the room in this crack house, on the ground, and I've shot up, and I've got this paramedic crew on top of me. And what they've done is they brought me back with naloxone, and so I died. I later on, they told me what happened. I was blue. I was gone. I was dead. I was a young, scared, poorly, sad boy, and I ended up dying. But I'm still here. Thanks to the paramedics team and thanks to naloxone, being administered. It reduced. It touched the GABA receptors and brought me back to life, which I'm very grateful for, because since then there's been a lot of good happening in my life. Okay, I wouldn't say. See, the crap thing is I I've never had an issue with money. Like, I definitely come from a wealthy background, but I've done things throughout my life where I've always had money. So even if my tolerance got higher, I'd always be able to get more. So to be honest, every time that I had it, it had that same effect. If not, I'd just have more and more and more because I could afford it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a millionaire. You know, give it a couple of years or whatever, a year, I probably would have ended up, on the street. But at the time, I could afford it. But the thing is, that definitely happened is, it's not that the drug didn't stop working, but it started to not only take away the most important things in my life, it gave me so much different pain and different problems and different tragedies. So like, and dramas. So like, the people closest to me, because they felt so hopeless and helpless, they couldn't get to me, they couldn't reach me. I was out all the time, I was never home. Like my mum and stuff, it gets to the point where, like, when do you give up? You're really struggling, it's your child or your friend or whatever, and they're killing themselves, slowly. So what I'd say happened with the drug is these things would slowly get taken away from me. So my friends, and then my health, obviously money, status, people then finding out that I'm a heroin addict, and people then became quite judgmental. And then my family, I ended up losing my family. I ended up losing the most important people in my life. My mother, getting chased up the stairs from my dad calling me a fucking junkie and then smashing my bedroom door through, and put my mum on antidepressants, made her poorly, so it takes so much. It takes so much from you. It really is a horrible, horrible substance. So it might have gave me temporary relief from visceral pain, but it took away the most important things that life can give you. And at the same time, it brought dramas with people, whether that be, I don't know, money or people not answering their phones or arguments about shit, just trivial. But with it also came illness. I was rattling every day, so I wasn't on a script. I didn't even know about methadone, didn't know about Subutex. I didn't know about any services, to be honest. So I was only on heroin. So every day that I woke up, I wanted that substance more than I wanted oxygen. As soon as I woke up, I was poorly. I was so sick. Throwing up, sweating, personality, completely personalization. My personality would change just horribly. Just horrible day-to-day existence. My reality was a horror movie. It really was a horror movie.
And what was it like coming off? Tell me how you got to a point where you decided to quit, and what was that like?
Okay, so I got to a point, I guess the point, don't get me wrong, there were times where, like, say where I died, where it was like, this is, what the fuck's, gotta stop this. But I've got to admit, even I think because I was still so sad and so depressed, and I had such little value of my life, that overdose didn't stop me. Unfortunately, it didn't. It really should have. I remember the paramedic saying to me, looking in my eyes and said, he sat me up against the chair and was like, son, he was a Scottish man, I lost my son to a car accident in his early 20s. Don't do the same. Don't give please, don't die. Don't give your parents that agony, that pain. Don't let them bury you. And I remember those words, and they'll stick with me. The time where it really got to giving it, that's it. I'm done. Not only am I done, I'm doing something about it. So there was this, I was at university at the time. And it got through, as it does, people got through the grapevine that I was an addict. And not that I was using on site but people like to talk, of course people like to talk. And the head of the course at the time, I was studying youth justice, and the head of the course at the time found out, and there was many meetings anyway, because my attendance was so low, it was 17%. And then a meeting was held with this, I'm not sure, I think it was with the dean, or the dean's assistant or something. And the leader, the head of my course said to me, we're kicking you out, okay? It's impossible, I was in final year, it's impossible for you. I think I had 3 or 4 outstanding essays assignments, and these are 3,000, 5,000 word essays, and a dissertation to complete, all within, I think the time frame was 3 weeks or so, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I broke down because I'd worked so hard to change my life and to get this degree, and I changed so much as a person as well. And her telling me it was impossible, and this was in front of my mum as well, made my mum crying. It fueled something in me that was unstoppable. It was unstoppable. So I was coming off of methadone, coming off of heroin, and tapering off of methadone, which is another horrible substance, whilst at the same time writing my dissertation and writing these extra assignments that I've been falling back on. So what I'd do is I'd fall asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd wake up I'd set my alarm for 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd wake up, take my methadone, start researching, typing, referencing everything that comes with the dissertation and these other essays, and tick by essay by essay by essay, by chapter by chapter by chapter, I've done it. I was like, when I finally finished it all, while I was coming, I was really sick. I've got a sick bucket next to me, I'm throwing up, going to the toilet, doing whatever, sweating, puking, and at the same time, then, feeling really poorly, having a sick bucket, throwing up, and then at the same time, going back onto my laptop and writing some more. I had to really, it took everything from me, but it was I had a lot of humility, and it just brought so much, it's just brought so much happiness to my mom and myself. I graduated, I got my degree, I completed my dissertation. I even got first in some of these essays, and it just, it blew their mind, I done literally what everyone, not even that woman, other people said it was impossible too, but I like to take that as a challenge, if someone says something's impossible, I definitely like to, it just motivates me more. And there's actually a similar study done with rats. I don't know whether this should be this is worth keeping in or not, but there's a study that's done, and they will starve a rat or a mouse for a prolonged amount of time, and they'll attach a string to its tail and put food in front of it and see how much it wants this food, based on how hungry it is or whatever. But then they brought in another factor, and they obviously done their results and whatever, and then they brought in another factor, which was the scent of a cat. So I don't know if you know, but mice or rats innately fear the scent of, even though they've never met a cat before, their primitive mind is afraid of a cat. So not only did they have this block of cheese or whatever, this food in front of them, they had this fear of a cat behind them, and that blew the charts. They tore that spring apart. So it's kind of like my situation is like, not only did I have this goal that I had previously of a degree, I had this fear of Jesus. Like if I didn't do this, like I could end up dying. I wouldn't get my degree. I'd lose everything. I'd lose my family. So it was this. I had not only this goal, but this fear of death and of failure and of not making my mom proud and them being right when they said it's impossible. So it's both forces. But yeah, I've done it.
So what are some of the things you're most passionate about regarding recovery?
Some of the things I'm most passionate about in regards to recovery, I would say, are being treated how I was treated by individuals in society when I was an addict, and seeing how other people are still being treated, friends of people that I see sometimes on the street, and they're invisible. They're invisible to a lot of society. They're a hindrance, an annoyance, just a person that they have to look away from or look down from or say no to when they want change for a bus or whatever. So my main society depicts an addict as this desperate, manipulative individual, when really underlying it is just another human that's in so much pain, and there's so many complex reasons why this person ends up in that situation. No one, trust me, I've been in this world, no one's laughing and giggling and meeting up for a heroin party. This is serious shit. People die. This is serious stuff. People die from this disease, addiction, whatever you want to call it. People die from this. This is no joke. These people aren't happy. These people choose to, mutilate their body and put in their groins and poison themselves. My main passions are to show that these people are just really in pain. These people need help. These people need help and support. They don't need judgment and demonization and alienation and all of those things. These are the people that are sick. They're sick, they're poorly, and they're desperate, and they need help. They need love and compassion in times where they need it the most, and they don't get that. They get the opposite. They get judgment, they get looks, they get words,
Yeah. I think if you say, my aim in life is to stop using drugs, it's like, well, that's just a negative aim. You need a positive aim. I want to stop using drugs so that I can, that's the way. To me, that's a real constructive goal.
For sure. There's a reason.
We have a reason to live, not just a reason to not die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's here to help people? I'm here to serve.
So start me out talking about CGL. What's your experience with CGL? So you said that when you were in the middle of using drugs or earlier, you didn't even know there were services out there. So how would you describe drug and alcohol services to somebody who didn't know anything about them?
Okay, of course. So, I didn't know about any drug services or support prior, but CGL, Aspire in Peterborough, Change Where I Live, but the office in Peterborough is called Aspire. Change Where I Live is an amazing organisation that I'm now lucky enough to be a peer mentor, so I volunteer with them at the moment. But Change Where I Live are an incredible organisation who help people with substance abuse issues, and they provide pods like group meetings, supportive. You get a key worker and they'll check up on you on this thing called TOPS, so they'll check on like your mental well-being, your physical health, and they helped save my life. So they put me on a script, and my key worker, I don't know whether to mention her name because it's about anonymity, but she was incredible, and she got me down from 60 ml of methadone all the way down to zero, and I was off. The CGL are amazing. They work with alcoholics, non-opiates, opiate-based, and they deal with all sorts of safeguarding issues. And they help save my life. CGL, incredible.
So if you was to describe what it was like going through withdrawal when you had you had the bucket and all this terrible symptoms, how would people at CGL react if you told them about that? Would they be shocked? Would they be appalled?
No. I think some of they've been in the business a long time, so they definitely know what withdrawal is like. They see it on a daily basis. Probably. I don't know. My circumstances were a bit different, I guess. I was quite young. I was quite young, and usually like a lot of the opiate users were a bit older. And also I was a student. I was writing a degree. But yeah, what other questions would you like about CGL? I'm trying to think.
How did they treat you? Were they, what were they like as people?
Yeah, so CGL, every time I went in there, from the receptionist to the nurse to the whoever, always empathy and compassion. Everyone I've ever met in that service has been so lovely, like not only to me, to everyone I've met, non-judgmental, all these such important things. Everyone that I've met in CGL genuinely cares about the service users, and it just makes a whole load of difference when a professional genuinely cares, about what they're doing. It's wonderful. So the people that work there and as an organisation as a whole, I can't thank enough, and I'd love to continue to work with them, and maybe one day actually get a career with them.
Cool. So speaking about career, what where would you love to be in 5 years' time if you could be anywhere? What would you love? What is your passion for the future?
Oh, in 5 years' time.
Or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, in the future, yeah, aspirations. I mean, recently I've actually created a website, so it's called sparkinthedark.co.uk, and it's at the moment it's just a blog, and that's to help people with mental health difficulties and addiction. But I'd like to turn that into like a service. Like, I'd love to first of all go from a volunteer to maybe a recovery coordinator or something. Like, I'd really love to work within CGL or a similar service, whether it's mental health or addiction, or anything around those. I'd love to have a working career, where I could help people, where every day I wake up and when I go to work I'm helping people. Like, if I could work for CGL one day, that would be incredible. But in the future, like, I would really love to create a service. I've been thinking about it a lot, because I've been through the mental health system in general, from crisis team, I've been admitted to psychiatric ward twice. I know about 111 option 2, the services there. I believe there's a big gap between the 111 option 2 service, where unfortunately, like, not every experience with them has been negative. Everyone that I've spoken to has been lovely, actually. But like, you're on hold, for a certain amount of time, and there's so many steps. I mean, if you're really in crisis, it's just not very practical. But there's a big gap between that and admission to a psychiatric ward, and I think there's a big gap in the middle where people are falling through, and where they're too poorly to pick up the phone and wait on hold for 111 option 2, but perhaps they're not as acutely unwell to be admitted to a psychiatric ward. So it would be a huge aspect. It would be an incredible aspiration to create some kind of service that addresses that demographic between 111 and hospital admission. Some types of support, I'd love to create something. Yeah.
Right. So you talk about how in the world people can be so judgmental, just in society in general, and then CGL is really non-judgmental and really supportive and understanding. Have you had any other support besides CGL that shows that not everybody judges addicts?
100%. So I'm lucky enough to be part of CA, Cocaine Anonymous. So cocaine itself hasn't been a drug that I've had a problem with. I've used on occasion, but then again, I use crack, which is cocaine, and that's another thing. There's stigma. There's not a stigma around people that sniff cocaine, in the pub and with their lads or whatever, but a crackhead's called a crackhead and looked down upon. It's the same drug. That's another issue. But CA are another group. I've done some work with NA, but mainly CA, and they've been incredible. It's called a fellowship, and having the 12 steps, they have a 12-step recovery program, and it's quite spiritual as well. And the people that I've met within CA has been similar to CGL, and that they've just been incredible. Like, it's like a family. So CA, Peterborough, Stamford, but CA, everywhere. They're all over the world. I'd really advise or encourage anyone with any type of issues to go see what support is out there, because these groups are lovely, and it's called a fellowship, and you've all been through similar experiences, and you share stories, and you share each other's pain, and you have a sponsor that you work with quite closely, and you can call them, whenever you want, and you have that, extended family, and they'll take you through the steps, which are incredible. They're like self-reflective. You take responsibility for a lot of stuff that you do, and in general, it changes your outlook and perspective of life. It's not just about substances. The 12 rules are really beautiful. So I'd encourage anyone to, even if you haven't got any issues, check out the 12-step program, because I honestly think it's so beneficial.
How much does it cost to come along to a 12-step group?
It's free. It's free. So you can donate. You can donate, and we have a book, a 12-step book. I think it's like a $5 or something. But you can donate. I have no money. You don't have to donate, but I choose to give a couple quid. Every session. I know there's been a pandemic, so it's mainly been over Zoom. But now, this week was our first face-to-face meeting back, and it was incredible to see everyone again. Don't get me wrong, we can't do what we usually do, like before we'd all hug and everything like that, but it was still lovely to see, of course, 2 meters apart and everything, but it was just so lovely to see everyone again this week. And please check them out. Okay,
can you talk a bit about the spirituality of it? If I don't believe in God, will I be welcomed, or will I have to change my views to be a part of it?
Not at all. Once again, everyone is just so non-judgmental, and everyone has their own journey, through life. And for sure, so many atheists, come. I'll be honest, I don't exactly believe in a dogmatic, person in the sky, a view of God. And it says in the book, it's a higher power of your choice. It's what you connect with. But it's to realize that there is something bigger than us. That we've tried a lot on our own to manage things, and it's not turned out too well. But when you're aligned with your higher power, or it's not wooey either. It's quite practical. It's by taking responsibility for things. But the spiritual aspect of it is really beautiful, because it brings humility. It chucks your ego out the window for a bit. That egotistical self that's the bravado and stuff. Be humble. There's something much bigger than you, and when you hand that over and have faith, it really helps in day-to-day recovery and day-to-day living.
Excellent, great. Yeah. So anything else that comes to mind you'd like to talk about? Because I think we've got some good stuff here.
Okay, I don't know, I just really want to thank you for the opportunity. This network, Casey, it's been amazing. It's been great to get to know you, man. I'd like to, if anyone's watching this, I'd like to do some more work around addiction or mental health, or in any way that I can help. I'd love to help if anyone wants to reach out to me.
Okay, here's a question for you. I ask a lot of people, especially during COVID, what are you doing to look after your mental health? How are you taking care of yourself with such strange isolating times that we're in.
So yeah, these are very uncharted territories. These are, it's been like a century. What was it? Spanish influenza, 1912 or something. So this is something that no one alive right now has been through with this pandemic. It's been, we definitely haven't got to the end yet, but we're like, I think 10 months in or something at this stage. During this whole period, it's been very important to keep in contact with people that really mean the most, that really do care, to really stay in touch, not just for you, but for them, to check in on them, to make sure others are okay. Getting outside, walks, anything that you can do physically to keep your body moving. Meditation is a good one, mindfulness. But yeah, because we're social beings, we're not meant to be kept in, and like I have friends that have served long times in prison, and not only just prison, but prison in prison, which is social isolation, where they're banged up on their own, that they don't have any social, and it has a severe impact on their mental health. So staying in contact with people is so important. The groups, the Zooms have been good, but also taking it day by day, like reduce your, my big tip would be to reduce your temporal boundaries. That's the term that I'd use. In that, like, don't look at like the whole year or something. If it's day by day, it's day by day. If it's hour by hour or minute by minute, some people, it depends what level of suffering you're going through. But my huge advice to someone that's really struggling would be to reduce your temporal boundaries. Don't think about next week or what you can't even conceptualize it. So just take it at whatever pace you're at, hour by hour, minute by minute, and really be as kind to yourself as you can, and persevere, and there will be better times.
Right. That's fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's excellent.
It's been
Really good advice about getting outside, meditating, and taking things slow. Not overloading ourselves with too much worry. Yeah, that's great.
For sure.
Connecting.
For sure.
Cool. Thank you very much.